Before we get started, I'd like to acknowledge a certain someone in the audience that might be watching right now. His name is Taskmaster. And, well, he is a special man. Do you want to know why? Because he is the very first person to recognize me on a daily routine. You see, we were playing Counter-Strike Source, and he said, "Hey, Azekahh, aren't you that guy with a YouTube account?" And I'm like, "Yes, I am." So thank you, Taskmaster, for being the first person to recognize me, or at least the first person to say something about knowing who I am. Now, please enjoy Building Bridges, Part 2.
Over the next few days, Twilight found herself enjoying the routine that she and Rainbow Dash had slipped into. Unless either pony was otherwise preoccupied, evenings would usually find them huddled together in the library, over a book. While she never really seemed to fully get into the studying mood and she was always a little distracted, it was clear that Rainbow got something out of these sessions. Why else would the athletic pony keep returning? She grasped the material as fast as, if not faster than, Twilight, too. It was a little humbling. But it was hard to be even the slightest bit annoyed when you had a good book and a good friend. They finished Aerodynamics Made Simple early one evening, and Twilight looked up to see Dash looking back at her. Or through her? Regardless, the blue pony looked away quickly, frowning. "Well, that's that!" Twilight exclaimed. Dash nodded absent-mindedly. Was she actually looking disappointed? "How's the trick going anyway?" she asked, resting her head and her hooves on the study table that had been their third group member. "Oh, yeah, not so great," Rainbow Dash admitted glumly, offering no further comment. Twilight hesitated a little bit before she levitated over a book she'd stowed away nearby, putting it down gently on the desk. "I got this volume of Altitude Flying Theories," she tried, fishing for a smile. She had no idea how Rainbow Dash would react, but to her delight, the Pegasus practically threw herself over the book, staring. "I guess this means it's relevant to your trick?" she continued, unable to suppress a satisfied smirk. "Never mind that!" Rainbow Dash cried. "The author!" "Huh? Spitfire? Oh, one of the Wonderbolts?" Twilight arched a brow. "You bet your flank she is! Spitfire writes books?" Dash was agape. "Well, yeah. She's fairly high profile, isn't she? It's not all that uncommon." "High profile?" Dash was staring dumbly at Twilight as if she was mad. "She's a Wonderbolt!" Twilight didn't quite know how to respond to that exactly, since they were basically agreeing at this point. "What's it about anyway?" Dash continued. "This book wasn't on... I haven't seen this book before," she said, calming down a little, though her voice held a note of wonder. "Well, I only received this copy from Canterlot yesterday. It's a fairly recent release discussing the dangers of and precautionary measures with regards of altitude flying," Twilight explained, remembering what she'd read about it. "So, flying really high? Someone wrote a book about that?" Rainbow Dash asked, brow furrowed as if there was some mystery here still to be divulged. Twilight nodded, and Rainbow Dash wasted no time opening the book and leaning forward on her hooves in rapt attention. Twilight didn't want to look a gift pony in the mouth, and joined her. They were still working on the same volume one evening, days later. Twilight was happy to see Rainbow Dash paying a lot more attention to this book, though she didn't seem to be taking notes. She was looking up at Twilight often, as if contemplating something outside of the pages, and the pace was a lot slower, with a lot of questions about "what's this?" or what that word meant. Still, it was a major step up from the previous book they'd studied as far as the focus went. During one particular chapter, Rainbow Dash was actually so thoroughly entrenched in between the pages of the book that Twilight had given up asking her if she wanted to help her with some chores. She went about tidying the room, levitating a feather duster while thinking about how nice it was to have someone around to share a good book with for once. "Oh my gosh! What time is it?" She was startled into dropping her feather duster by Rainbow Dash's exclamation. The Pegasus pony was looking around in a slightly panicked daze. Twilight peeked out the window and shrugged. Early evening about? Why?" I forgot! Pinkie Pie is throwing a party tonight, and I promised I'd tell you. We should totally go if we're gonna catch it. Oh, that was today? Yeah, Pinkie's 2 weeks since last party. And last party was 2 weeks ago, Rainbow Dash said, and they shared a chuckle. It was hardly the silliest party excuse they'd heard, and that, perhaps, was the funniest part of all. Well, I guess we could use a break from the books, Twilight chuckled. It's been days since I've seen most of the girls. Let's head over to Sugar Cube Corner, then? Rainbow Dash looked oddly contemplative at that, giving Twilight Sparkle a long look, obviously mulling something over. Actually, you go ahead. I'm gonna go, get something. Forgot to, She trailed off a bit as she watched Twilight levitate a brush over to begin brushing her mane. Brush my mane? That's it! See you there! With that, she was off, a ghost of a blush on her face. Oh. Twilight had gotten so used to Rainbow Dash being a little random and nervous these days that she didn't even bother challenging her. Twilight had never seen Rainbow Dash brush her mane except before the Grand Galloping Gala anyway. Must be that trick of hers weighing on her mind then, Twilight thought. Oddly, Rainbow Dash hadn't even mentioned that elusive trick for days now. She made a mental note to see if she could find a book with tips on dealing with performance anxiety. It would have to wait until after the party, of course. She hadn't seen Pinkie Pie in quite a while, and the pink party pony never failed to entertain. Satisfied with her mane and tail, Twilight locked the library door soundly and headed out into the slightly chill dusk air. Over at Sugar Cube Corner, the party was already in full swing, and the coming night was staved off by enough lanterns to illuminate all of Apple Acres twice, it seemed. Not just a little get-together for the gang, then. Pinkie had apparently invited all of Ponyville. Pegasi, Earth Ponies, and Unicorns alike all filled the area, and Vinyl Scratch's beats flowed... Oh, yeah. Vinyl Scratch's beats flowed from the bakery-turned party hall. It was testament how little Twilight Sparkle had mingled recently. The fact that she'd missed this. It was definitely time to shake some hooves, and perhaps even hit the dance floor. Twilight laughed at herself for even thinking that last thought as she exchanged greetings with every pony. She knew whilst making her way to the entrance. Twilight slipped inside to meet a flash of pink and found herself suddenly outside again, now on her back, positively covered in streamers, glitter, and more significantly, pink pony. She may also have been one mild concussion richer, too. Twilight! I'm so super duper happy you could make it! Pinkie Pie beamed as she helped her friend up, leading her inside with a hoof. Pinkie seemed even more enthusiastic than usual, perhaps energized by the sheer amount of ponies attending the party. Thanks. Great to see you too, Pinkie, Twilight mumbled as she clutched her head. Well, inside, the hot air and loud music enveloped her. They were quickly approached by the other members of the gang, Fluttershy, Applejack, and Rarity. Only the latter of the three had really dressed up for the occasion. But then, that was hardly a surprise to anyone. Oh, good to see you again, Twilight. You simply must leave that musty library a bit more often. We've hardly seen you at all lately, Rarity said as she closed to give Twilight a brief hug. Or, as I'm more fond of saying, howdy, Applejack offered a contrast, rolling her eyes. Hi, Fluttershy added with a smile. I'm sorry, girls. It's just a little hard for me to find time minding the library by myself and studying with Rainbow, Twilight admitted, though she found that she didn't regret the latter part at all. Didn't you tell me Spike was due to return at the beginning of the month? That was almost a week ago. Whatever happened to him? Rarity asked with obvious concern. I knew if I'd tell you, Rarity. Oh, if I knew, I'd tell you, Rarity. I'm still wondering about that myself. Ditsy came by with a letter from Celestia, royal seal and all. Apparently, the princess needs him for something or other a little while longer. Twilight was still shaking her head over the whole business. Receiving a royal letter by normal mail alone was weird enough. She was so used to having Spike around for exactly that. If it wasn't for Rainbow Dash helping me out a little, I'd be behind on all my tasks, she admitted. If you need help, Sugar Cube, Applejack began. Isn't this what friends are for, darling? Rarity agreed. Fluttershy looked a little uncomfortable. Oddly, while she dearly loved her friends, Twilight found herself hesitating a little before she just gave them what she hoped was a reassuring smile. I think Rainbow Dash and I have a handle on it, but thank you for the offer. Pinkie Pie, who'd apparently disappeared at some point, chose this moment to return, beaming, "Ooh, is Dashie a librarian now? Huh? I bet the books love Rainbow!" She blurted as she bounced merrily over to lean on Fluttershy for no apparent reason, earning a cautious smile from the timid Pegasus before continuing. "They must be so tired of all that boring black ink. I bet Rainbow is just what they need. Poor books." "We're just reading all the books we can find on flying. She's working on a new trick," Twilight explained. Pinkie Pie tilted her head 90 degrees sideways. "Ooh, a new trick? Is it the one where she sits on a cloud outside the library like a tiger with a really pretty tail ready to pounce?" Pinkie asked, eyes full of wonder. What?" Twilight chuckled and glanced over her shoulder to see Rainbow Dash herself enter through the doors of Sugar Cube Corner, pushing some errant streamers aside. Funny enough, she had actually brushed her mane just like she said she would, and she wore a pair of small saddlebags. Pinkie Pie's voice continued on in the background. "You know, that trick she was working on earlier, you silly filly. Waiting for the right moment, then, like, bam! Like a cannonball or muffin straight into the library." Pinkie Pie finished with the pantomime of a muffin cannonballing into the library, or a pony crashing into Applejack, in this case, making them both tumble to the ground. Fluttershy was frozen in fear. Rarity, for her part, looked about as uncomprehending as Twilight. "Wait, you're saying Rainbow Dash was doing that on purpose?" Twilight stared, still trying to fit the pieces together. Rainbow Dash had stopped mid-stride a short distance away, apparently having overheard the exchange. Twilight turned to face her. "Why would you do that?" she asked her friend simply. It came out a lot angrier and more terse than she had intended. About that," Dash stammered, looking a lot less like her brash self by the second. Her head dipped a little, her mane falling in front of her face. "Never mind that. Some old books got damaged. Never mind the extra work." "You lied to me. You're not working on a new trick." "Why?" Twilight shook her head in disbelief. Rainbow Dash wavered, turning away from Twilight a little bit, towards the door. Fluttershy passed by Twilight, walking towards Rainbow Dash slowly with her head low, as if she were an animal she might scare away. Twilight barely noticed. Confused, she grasped for any possible scenario or motive that explained this. "If you wanted to help with my studying, all you needed to do was ask, Rainbow." As she spoke, she realized this must have been the case, and the pieces almost fit. Twilight softened a little, regretting getting so angry over the whole thing. Rainbow Dash looked up then, and Twilight was shocked to see tears glistening in her eyes. Oh. She couldn't remember when she had last seen Dash cry. The music seemed to fade away, everything around them stripping away, layer by layer. Pony by pony, everything felt wrong. The unicorn mentally flailing, wondering why some part of her mind was screaming at her. "'Cause that's what friends are for," she tried, her voice almost just a whisper. Something broke in her friend's eyes, and Rainbow Dash bolted for the door. Oh. Rainbow Dash feels friend-zoned, doesn't she? I get it now. That feel, bro. That feel. The saddlebag snagged on the doorframe and fell off. In a chromatic blur, she vanished into the night air. Fluttershy stood staring out the open door for a few seconds before she collected the saddlebags with extreme care and rejoined the group. She put down the mysterious container right in front of Twilight Sparkle. The party rushed to fill the gap, sounds of movement everywhere except in a tiny bubble around a group of friends. None of them seemed particularly festive right now. Twilight looked around, hoping this was all just a terrible nightmare. Rarity still looked confused, part aghast, and Applejack looked as if she'd swallowed something very sour. Even Pinkie Pie looked crestfallen. "What did I do? Did I hurt Dashie?" she whispered, her normally poofy mane suddenly a little less festive and curly. Despite her distress, it was on Fluttershy that Twilight's eyes came to rest. The Pegasus pony was looking straight back at her, conflicted. I'm trying very hard to not be angry with you, Twilight Sparkle, but I don't know if I can, and it's not fair to you. You didn't know. I'm sorry. I'm going to
Sorry.
Fluttershy turned and walked off without a backwards glance, leaving 4 stunned ponies in her wake. For some reason, those soft-spoken words, though she could make no sense of them, stung more profoundly than had Princess Celestia herself descended from Canterlot to declare her undying hatred for her no longer favorite pupil. Twilight Sparkle looked up at Applejack, desperate. She was the only remaining pony who looked to have even the slightest clue as to what was happening around them.
AJ, please?
Twilight implored desperately. Darn it, I told him this wasn't the way to go about it. Why, honey, for all your book smarts, you sure are a few apples short of an apple pie when it comes to ponies sometimes. There was sympathy in her eyes now. Any annoyance at the insult was washed away by the glimmer of hope there, and Twilight blinked back tears.
I just want to know what I did, and how to fix it. Please, help me.
Twilight sniffled and crumpled to the ground. My voice isn't making her sound very distressed. Applejack sat down on her haunches next to her, stroking her mane gently. Rarity and Pinkie Pie moved in a little closer, the latter of the two still looking mortified. Nothing about this struck you as odd? AJ asked with a sigh.
One moment. I'm studying with Rainbow Dash. And then, Twilight muttered, studying what? Stuff about flying? The thing she does better than just about any pony else? Applejack prodded her mentally, trying to make her think. She was quick on the uptake, Twilight agreed. Fluttershy told me that book you read was part of the flight school reading list. Applejack wore a tight smile that conveyed no real mirth. Twilight's mind raced. That made no sense, but she was sure she'd read a book about this, something commenting on irrational behavior and what could cause it. Maybe Rainbow Dash just wanted to spend more time with you, Applejack tried. Twilight said nothing. Dash is sweet on you. No. The second voice was apparently Twilight's own, she discovered, and she'd sounded breathless, terrified. Trying to analyze her own voice couldn't be a healthy practice, but she had no idea where to put her thoughts, what to think. Twilight? Rarity said, rousing her. You knew about this? Twilight suddenly gaped, looking around quickly, darting from face to face. It was fairly obvious that Rarity and Pinkie hadn't, but Applejack nodded lumily. Other secrets ain't mine to spill, no matter how much I dislike it. Fluttershy made me swear not to tell. Quickest way to lose a friend. Forever, Pinkie Pie muttered, her heart clearly not in it. Fluttershy, Twilight said, quickly getting to her hose. I have to find her. I'm coming with you, Rarity declared. You're not going alone as is, and I need a word with Fluttershy myself. Twilight did not protest, pausing only to pick up the small saddlebags that Rainbow Dash and Fluttershy had forgotten, and the two unicorns soon galloped out the door together, heading to Fluttershy's cottage. The last they saw of the party was Applejack sitting down next to Pinkie Pie, the two Earth ponies embracing. Yeah, I really would like to continue on, but I think I'm gonna end this session here.